Good morning, everyone. I'm Safari Mack, your guide and host, helping you make connections to the wild. Well, thank you for tuning into my videos, to all my faithful fans and viewers, as well as my subscribers. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. I certainly hope that you'll consider subscribing to my channel so that you can stay tuned with new information each week from what the next animal will be, or where we will go next in the world, or just anything out of the ordinary, like a special event. In addition to this, I hope you'll check out my Facebook page where you can see articles about different conservation projects from all over the world, as well as updates and even strange and fun animal facts from time to time. And as always, if you have questions about me or my series, please feel free to send me an email, which you'll find the address down in the description below. But today, I know what you're probably thinking. Should we be heading for North America? Well, I thought about it, folks, and I decided that we needed to have at least one more South American animal. So with that said, I'd like to introduce to you the sloth. Now, I know the sloth probably isn't the top choice for everybody, but here on Safari Mack, I feel it is my duty and my job to show all of you and to give voice to all animals, whether we love them or whether we're not really too sure about them. So if we're all set though, let's look into the world of the sloth. First of all, to understand their family, we need to also look back at their origins. And I'm telling you, the truth truly is stranger than fiction. First of all, sloths are part of a superorder in biology. That's basically a taxonomical category that ranks just above order and below class, that are called Xenarthra, which is Greek for alien joint, referring mostly to the gigantic claws on their feet. Now, hence this is how they get their name of the toads, sloths. But now, believe it or not, their cousins are actually anteaters as well as armadillos. In fact, if you look closely, you can see the claws as well. But now how did they get to this point? First of all, if you recall from Macaw's Part 1, I talked to you about Gondwana, the giant landmass that was comprised of South America, Africa, Antarctica, Australia, and the subcontinent of India. But as time passed, millions of years went by, South America began to break off from Africa, and for millions, and I mean millions of years, this continent was its own alien world. This really, hence is the name, the Lost Continent. And as a result, because of its isolation, similar to that of Australia today, its animals would become highly unique. And I mean some of the weirdest creatures, oddities, just thrived here. And so here's one of the sloth's ancient ancestors. Now, first of all, for modern day sloths, their ancestors started out originally 28 million years ago, but they evolved into two different categories. Now, the gentle tree sloths are alive today, and they survived, but their cousins were just flat out whoa. This was Megatherium, the giant ground sloth. This creature, probably was big, and it weighed more than an elephant. And this was a ground dweller. Now, if we're not sure about this creature, there is a character that you all may be familiar with. I'm referring to from 20th Century Fox and Blue Sky Animation Studio Films animation film series Ice Age, Sid. He is actually considered to be a Megatherium. So think about that one for a minute. Now, today's modern-day sloth comes in two different types, whether it's a two-toed sloth or a three-toed. Now, for this video, we're just going to focus on sloths in general and not specific. Let's talk about the simple life. Now, as I mentioned, they are cousins to anteaters and armadillos, though they resemble somewhat of a monkey. That's just because these creatures are built for a life in the canopy or up in the treetops. When the early explorers first saw these creatures, they thought that these were probably the most stupid of God's creations, and that anything further would have sent them over the edge to oblivion. Now, of course, they move slow, and really, that's just their way of trying to go undetected. But there's really some scientists are not fully sure as to why sloths are slow. They just are slow. And so as a result, there are some theories as to why they are slow, but we're still figuring it out. But one thing we do know is that being slow allows them to have a very, very, very slow metabolism, meaning they can survive on very small amounts of food, especially in times when food might not be scarce. But really, these guys are not much of a big meal eater. And as a result, because they're so slow, they actually can grow a kind of bluish greenish algae, which can also serve as a perfect camouflage against predators, which can include harpy eagles, ocelots, and jaguars. But now let's talk a little bit about some of the differences between the two-toed sloth and the three-toed sloth. According to Kids National Geographic, the two species are quite similar in appearance, with roundish heads, sad-looking eyes, tiny ears, and stubby tails. Two-toeds are slightly bigger and tend to spend more time hanging upside down than their three-toed cousins, who often sit in the fork of a branch. And then the three-toeds usually have facial hair and they seem to look like they're always smiling. Generally, these creatures tend to live a solitary lifestyle, only coming together when it's time to breed or have kids. Now, when females are ready to mate with a male, they actually scream. So sloths are not silent. These are pretty vocal animals. They scream and attract males. Afterwards, usually the pregnancy is different, so it's different for both types. Two-toeds are thought to be maybe around 182 days to almost a year, while three-toeds are more like of 6 months. After they give birth to only one baby, they usually only stay with their mom for at least 6 months before they're ready to go out on their own, and they will even adopt part of their mother's territory, so that way they can still kind of stay in contact. Aww. Now let's talk about their slow foods. Now, despite being close animals, their diets are actually very different. Two-toeds are considered to be a little more omnivorous, so in addition to fruits and leaves, they'll also eat insects, small lizards, and whenever the opportunity presents itself, they will go for carrion or dead animals to supplement their diet, as well as additional delicious different kinds of fruits. While the three-toed sloth is a strict herbivorous, eating a variety of different leaves. But now, because these creatures are slow, and like I said, a slow metabolism, they have some of the slowest digestion ever in the animal kingdom. So it turns out that 2/3 of their body weight may actually consist of all the food that's inside their stomach already. And if that wasn't crazy enough, because thanks to their slow metabolism, they only go to the bathroom once a week. That's right, once a week. Now, this next part, ladies and gentlemen, will have to be covered in 2 parts. So I would like to start off with this part of both the human culture and Wild Things. Now, in the first movie of the Ice Age series, Sid, as our heroes are going through a cave filled with human drawings, Sid points out, you never see any sloths on these things. Have you ever noticed? I myself was kind of puzzled by that. Until recently, I found a cool article that was shared by the Sloth Conservation Foundation of ancient cave drawings down in the rainforest of Colombia that depict what seem to be humans, turtles, and ground sloths seeming to interact with each other. Now, of course, while we have evidence in the stone, it's kind of cool in the ground. It's cool to see actual drawings of these animals interacting with the natural world. Now, of course, we also know the sloth from probably like Flash working in Zootopia's DMV, which really is just probably the funniest thing, and this did prove that sloths can go to work at the DMV. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid that's all the time I have for this episode, but be sure to join me in about another 15 minutes for part 2 of today's episode of The Sloth. So, I'll see you all in just about 15 minutes. I'll see you later.